Hello, good afternoon, whatever. I don't actually know what's So this is week 2 check-in for my 31 days of Halloween project. I am decked out. It says all tricks, no treats, raccoons, festive. Let's talk about books. I have read, I have finished 3 more books. I have started several more. I am woefully behind, in case you couldn't tell. Please get used to that. Yeah, let's talk about books I read. The first one is an audiobook, and it is called Blanche Among the Talented 10th by Barbara Neely. This is the second Blanche White book. So the Blanche White books, they start with Blanche on the Lamb, and they are mystery crime books, but they are also examining the Black experience in America. And they are really fun because the main character, Blanche, is probably one of the nosiest women alive, which I love about her because she gets in everyone's business and just knows things. And then when crimes happen, she can figure out what happened because she knows everything. And she is concerned because her 2 children, who are adopted because they're actually her sister's biological children, but her sister died and left them to her. But she is concerned because she put them in a fancy school after the events of the previous book when she got a little bit of a windfall. And they have been changing in a way that she isn't liking very much, having to do with like feeling superior to other people and caring too much about what Blanche thinks are very shallow things like appearances and items and money stuff. With all of that, these kids have been invited, they're 8 and 11. They've been invited to spend a month over the summer with 2 school friends who have a place, whose parents have a place in this wealthy, exclusive Black enclave called Amber Cove that was started 100 years previously and was started for only Black people. But this place has a reputation, and the Black people that live there or who vacation there, they're very separate from the general population of Black people and life as Blanche knows it. So they're also very concerned with the color of their skin. So this is a place where colorism is rampant. And for those of you who aren't aware, I hope you are all already aware, but if you're not, colorism is bigotry within a community like Black Americans, where the whiter your skin, the more privilege you have. And people who have dark Black skin, like Blanche, have less privilege. So with all of that, the week that Blanche spends there kicks off with a dead body, because of course it does. And then things go from there. I had a really good time with this. It was actually better than the first book. The first book, she was kind of on her own and kind of separate from people, and the only person she really ever spoke with was a disabled man, and it just wasn't as fun as this one, where she had so many people to talk to and get to know and interact with. And then when she interacts with people, she has thoughts, and her thoughts are great. I also really liked the aspect of this that involved talking about colorism and class, because it got really personal for Blanche. And there was a moment in here that like almost made me cry, because her daughter Taifa basically got caught up in the colorism of it all too and said something really hurtful to Blanche. And the interaction they had after that was really wholesome, but it was still really sad. I highly recommend this series. If you guys have not read it and you're mystery fans, like, you're missing out. Barbara Neely only wrote 4 books, and she did pass away in, was it 2020? But she actually stopped writing in 2005. I don't know why, but the 4 books that we do have, I'm parceling them out. I read Blanche on the Lamb last October, and I read this one this October, so I've got 2 more. But these are definitely rereadable books because of the rich thematic work that's going on. So I am giving this 4.5 stars, and it was a success. And then the next book I finished was less of a success, and that was Dead 11. I went into this with pretty low expectations, and I think that's why I did like it as much as I did. I ended up giving this 3.5 stars, although I am rounding down to 3. So this is a horror book. It is about Well, not quite sure who the actual protagonist is, which is part of the problem. We get a forward from this guy named Harper at the beginning saying this book, he put it together as a project for himself to document what happened on this island, which is called Clifford Island in Lake Michigan, and he wants it to stand as a documentation of what happened, okay? But his sister Willow, who he's looking for, is actually, I think, probably the real protagonist. But if that's true, then, you know, spoiler thoughts, but she recently lost her son in an accident. He was hit by a car in the middle of the street, and she has been having very complicated grief. She's unable to move on, and that is when she gets a job offer from this mysterious island. She also happens to be in her son's room, which she maintains religiously, just as it was the day that he died. And she's happening to dust under his toy chest, and she sees words written under the toy chest that say Clifford Island. And this starts her on a journey to go to the island to try to figure out if something happened to her son, like if they have answers for her. This island is obsessed with 1994. They dress like it's 1994. Several members of the population watch the OJ chase every night. Some of them do the same things every day at the exact same time. And it's just generally very weird. So she's getting to know what's happening as her brother in the future is also trying to figure out what happened, because he goes to the island to look for her after she goes missing. And in general, I had two main issues with this. The first is that it's just a vibes book. It's just a very surface level vibes book. And if you are not perfectly in sync with the vibes, you're not going to have a great time. Now, I zoomed through this. I read this in basically a day. So it was very readable, but the prose was pretty weak in places. And overall, like, once you figure out what's happening at the end and the race to get through it and to figure it out is gone, you're just kind of left with a like sort of an empty feeling, because it's over and there was nothing there to replace that chase. There was no meaning, and it just kind of felt like an empty experience to me. Now, if you're just looking for thrills and stuff that's wild happening on an island and you don't care necessarily about the there, then, you know, this might work better for you. It's pretty long. It's like 436 pages, and he didn't do the author, Jimmy Julian, I don't think he did a super great job curating the experience so that information provide tension as well as it could have. So it was just in general a fine enough time. And if you're really curious about the premise, you know, it's not a bad book, I don't think, but it definitely could have been much better. So yeah, 3.5 stars. The third book that I've actually finished is one that I just finished about a half an hour ago, and that is The God of the Woods by Liz Moore. Now, Liz Moore is an author historically that I have given only 5-star ratings to, so I kind of went into this expecting to also give it 5 stars, but I'm only giving it 4.5. It was still a fantastic book. I just didn't have the, like, love feelings. You know, I didn't have the heart love feelings. I feel like this might be one of those books, though, that the longer it sits in my head, and like when we discuss it at my book club meeting tomorrow and pull apart like the craft of it, I might come back and bump up my rating to 5. Because sometimes 5-star books are just perfect books, even if you don't super love them. Although I tend to wait to give 5 stars to the ones that I super love. But I feel like she did exactly what she wanted to do. This is supremely satisfying, has great ending. The character work is really awesome. I mean, it's a literary mystery book. It's historical fiction also. It takes place mostly in 1975 when this 13-year-old girl, Barbara Van Laar, goes missing. But there's added complication. She goes missing from camp because her brother, Bear, who died before she was born, also went missing in the same area before she was, like, right before she was born. It's pretty much implied, actually, that her mom got pregnant with her the week that he went missing. But anyway, the disappearance of Bear Van Laar, which is her brother, really messed up her family. I mean, and her family was messed up to begin with, but it really messed them up pretty badly, and she's had a terrible time. So when she goes missing, there's lots of stuff to figure out. And so we're following multiple viewpoints. We're following camper Tracy, who got to know Barbara. We're following one of the investigators who is trying to figure out what happened to Barbara and find her. We follow Barbara and Bear's mom, Alice, back in the 50s and 60s before either of her children went missing, to give some context to like the family situation, what the atmosphere is like and all that stuff, which really worked very effectively. And then we also follow occasionally like little smaller points of view, like this man named Carl, who is the gardener on the estate. And they live on this place called the Self-Reliance Preserve. Self-Reliance named after Ralph Waldo Emerson, if that tells you anything. If you've studied Ralph Waldo Emerson and like what his whole deal was and like what he said it was versus what it actually was, that's pretty clever. Remember, oh, and then that Louise. So Louise is a camp counselor, so we follow from her. And all of these people have different sides of the story to tell. So it took me about 100 pages. I mean, I was really interested from the go. Like, I didn't ever think about putting it down and I wasn't bored. But I really got into it about 100 pages in. And this is a pretty big book. It's 476 pages, almost 500. And I think that every single one of those pages is earned. So yeah, 4.5 stars for now, but I might come back later. I think I did this with Long Bright River also, where I was like 4.5 stars, you know, fine. But then after it sat for a while and like my brain started thinking about what all went into it instead of just zooming through and not thinking about it very critically, I bumped that up to 5 stars. So I think something similar might happen here. For now, this is a 4.5 and I really enjoyed myself. That brings us to 6 books. I will point out that it is October 12th, so I'm supposed to be finishing, if to be on track, my 12th book today. That's obviously not going to happen. I don't even know if I can finish another book today, although I should try. I am still reading, have not gotten any further in either Interview the Vampire or American Sherlock. I'm actually I'm over halfway in American Sherlock, so I think I might actually try to finish this today just to, because the further I get away from it, like the less likely I'll be to go back to it, and I don't want to soft DNF anything this month. So I think I'm going to try to finish this one up today. Interview with the Vampire, I might have to like parcel that one out over the rest of the month. I don't know. We'll see. And I haven't touched Battle Royale either. Still at page 70. Similar situation. Might not actually finish this one this month. We'll see. Now the books that I started. Oh, and I'm still reading The Woman in White, although I only have 3 hours left on the audio at 1.25 speed, which is what I'm listening to. By the way, I'm listening to the audiobook narrated by Ian Holm, and it is fantastic. So if you are interested in this book and you like audio, I feel like that's the way to go because he does a fantastic job. He was a wizard of audio performance. Some actors aren't, they can't read a book to you, but he was really good. So anyway, I'm still reading that and I'm still loving it. I'm kicking myself for not waiting a couple of hours and then updating this, but I really wanted to get it before the sunset so I could have some natural light. So whatever, you'll hear next week what I gave it. It's probably gonna be 5 stars. Now I'm in the middle of one other audiobook, and that is Mary by Nat Cassidy. This is a book about a middle-aged woman who is, well, the book opens with her going to the doctor because weird things are happening to her, and she doesn't even really get to tell the doctor all the weird things that are happening to her. Like when she looks in the mirror, her reflection melts and becomes horrifying, and when she looks at other women, their faces melt and become horrifying. Also, she's been having really weird dreams. She can't sleep. Concerning things like that, but he just writes everything off as perimenopause, and then she goes about her day, at which point she's fired, and then also learns that her aunt is dying, and then also learns that her rent is going to double within the next couple of months. So she's having a real bad time, and all of this leads to her going back to her hometown of Arroyo, Arizona, which is not a real place. I googled that to be sure. Although Nat Cassidy is from Arizona. He went to Horizon High School. He's from Phoenix. But we went to college together, actually, which I did not know until my friend Lauren told me that. She was like, I knew him because she and our friend Cassidy worked at the Arizona Repertory Theater in the reception area, and the Arizona Repertory Theater was where the theater kids, the theater majors, all put on their shows, and he was a big part of that. So they knew him, and I was like, oh, I had no idea, but sure enough, yeah. So we overlapped by like a year, so that's fun information. But anyway, he knows Arizona really well, and you can tell by reading the book, which is fun for me because I live in Arizona. So she goes back to help her aunt because her aunt calls her, and she and her aunt have a very bad relationship, but she did raise her after Mary's parents died in a fire. Very suspicious. I think where this is going, I mean, this is not a retelling of Carrie like some people have said, although I think that its inspiration started with Carrie, because Nat Cassidy has said, and he says it in his intro to the book actually, that the original inspiration for this story 25 years ago when he first thought of it was, what if Carrie didn't have telekinesis, you know, Stephen King's Carrie, and what would happen to her without the powers. But it's branched off from there. And he also has said, I think in other places that I've read, that he wanted to write a book where he could play around with an unreliable narrator, and also sort of like just write an ode to something that is very important and close to his heart in terms of like his mother, who loved horror, loved Stephen King in particular. So writing about a middle-aged woman felt right to him. Anyway, I'm really liking it. I knew that I would. I'm only like 15% in though, because I was focusing more on The Woman in White. I'm sure I will finish it. Probably not tomorrow, because I don't generally listen to audiobooks as much on the weekends, but definitely by Monday. So you will definitely get an update next week. And then the books that I started, I will talk about these more once I'm further into them. I started Rouge by Mona Awad. This is another book club read. I have that at the end of the month, so I just have to finish it by the 29th, I think. And I decided, because I had such a good time reading Bunny earlier this year and interacting with it and taking it slower and annotating it, that I was also going to annotate. So you can see I'm not very far, but I've already tabbed a bunch. So I'm actually, like, I didn't have high expectations going into this because I've seen people be disappointed by it on booktube, but I'm really enjoying it. I still think I like Bunny better so far, but I mean, that could change. I'm only on page 52, but I'm having a good time. And then I also started American Elsewhere by Robert Jackson Bennett. This book is enormous, but I think once I really get into it, I'm only on page 27, I will get through it pretty fast, because this is, even though it's a chunker, it's not a difficult read, and I think it's going to be like really intriguing once I really get into it. Again, I'll talk about it more next week. And then the last book I started was a couple of days ago. I want to parcel this one out over about a week or so and read a story or two a day, depending on how long the stories are, and that is You Like It Darker by Stephen King. This is his newest book and his newest short fiction collection. Now, short story collections are not normally something that I am drawn to, but he is so good at them. I mean, even if I wasn't already planning on reading everything he's ever written, I would pick them up because it's so good. And I already have read the first 3 stories, and the first story in this, called Two Talented Bastards, I gave it 5 stars. So far so good. I think there are 12 stories in here. Yeah, 12 stories, and one of them I just remembered the other day, which is why I tried to start reading Cujo over the summer, is a sequel to Cujo. So I don't know what I'm going to do about that. I think I'm probably just going to have to go for it, read the sequel. It's a novella, without having read the original, because what else can I do? Because I'm not going to have time to fit. I mean, I'm already reading all of these right now, plus the audio, plus this. Plus I'm starting another short story collection in like 3 or 4 days, so I just don't think I can add any more books. I don't think I can add Cujo, even though it's probably a short read. That's what's going on right now. I'm having a good time, even if I'm a little overwhelmed by my own ambition. So that's good, and I feel some 5 stars coming on, and I just had a 4.5, maybe 5 star in the future. Yeah, that's it. Only a 20-minute update. So if you've made it this far, I mean, not that it's very far because it's only 20 minutes, thank you. And if you like the video, please don't forget to leave me a like and subscribe if you want to. And if you don't have anything to say about any of these books, then please leave me a tree emoji, or is there a bucket of paint emoji for God of the Woods? And I will see you guys probably in a week, maybe Saturday. I might post something in between, but probably not. So, Saturday. Okay, love you, bye.